What is going on, everybody? Bobby Fye and Eric Sheetsaber. We're going to be talking about this NBA. Look, the late season NBA slates are crazy, especially when there's a ton of games, and especially when some teams are on back-to-backs. And I think that there's as many guys sitting as I can ever remember sitting, and then there's as many guys questionable as I can ever remember as questionable. It feels good to me that I'm not playing tonight because I'm not going to be able to keep up with everything. I will just remind everybody, if you're not late swapping, you are throwing money away.
It's not even late swapping. It's like no swapping. I don't even know who to play. You know what I mean?
No, but late swapping is, there's most of these, I'm looking at the questionables, and a huge portion of them are in the later games. And if you want to use that to bump things up, because some of these guys are definitely sitting. I just don't know which ones. And I don't think anybody, maybe the team might know which ones, but I think I don't even know for sure with that one. So it's a wild slate. It's a wild late season slate. I do want to remind everybody to check out the site. As I mentioned, we've partnered with PayDirt as well as SaberSim. Got some awesome tools. Would love for you guys to check that stuff out. And it's a tough one to try to break down. So Sheets, I guess I'll just because you were asking me pre-show like what's happened since I literally scrolled for about 5 minutes down the update page of all the available players, and there's just so many things. We just got just now Svi Mikhailuk, which may not be a thing at all by the end of the day, but he was going to maybe be a play for Utah, is not playing tonight. Nobody, and you mentioned you don't have anybody on Utah showing up right now, but we've got we're down to 4 questionables on Utah. And even we had a DNP from Walker Kessler the other night, even though he was available to play. So it's just a really, really tough with the way these teams are trying to do this season. And we're just gonna have to try and do the best we can, I guess. But
let's start from the beginning. So Miami and the Knicks. We knew that Brunson was going to be out, obviously. We had Wiggins did not participate in Monday's shoot-around, but that's all I have.
Yeah.
I don't have that, anything else as far as that goes. And other guys on Miami, it's just kind of the same. And right now I'm not getting to anybody in this game. No Miami is looking good. Now, you mentioned McBride. You can talk to me about him again in a minute. But even Cat looks decent at 10K at low ownership. So that's something. So for me, it would be probably Cat. You talk me into McBride, or just pass on the game and buy me half an hour. Like that.
Yeah, I'll just say that McBride is completely misprojected. It was my take. He's averaging about with the last 3 games, what's he averaging? 36 without Brunson. He's projected at 29 now. I know it's not as good of a matchup. The minutes are there. I'm not saying he has to put up that, but I don't think he should be projected as low as he is. He's the only guy I would have interested in the first game. And maybe you just even X him out because there's so many other plays later in the day. But pretty much across the industry, everybody's got him sub 30. If I was playing today, I would have him around 31 or 32 just to make sure I was getting some of him. That's just me. I would guess they're going to try to play Wiggins. They've lost 7 in a row. The Heat are completely falling apart. The fact that he wasn't at shoot around makes me concerned. And I think what that does is it would bring Jaime Jaquez into play, but not in a way that is major enough to where you have to do anything, in my opinion, because I think the more stuff is later.
Okay, next one. So I'm going down this way. So Philly, Houston, Oubre is in fact out. Drummond is in fact out. Bona is in fact out. Yabusele still is listed as questionable. There's just no reason why they don't know if he's playing or not. It's ridiculous. Okay.
Yeah, and I'll do one better. They don't. Look, this is a tough one because they don't. They literally can't win games. This is a team that loses their draft pick if it doesn't fit in a certain category. So the more games they lose, they have to give themselves a pick this year, and they have nothing to play for because they're not going to make the playoffs. So they are trying to lose. I would assume that Yabusele probably ends up sitting. If he plays, I don't. Even if he plays well, I don't think there's going to be any reason to really play him. I'm not enthralled with the Philly value because even if Yabusele does play, they've got 10 bodies. If not, they'll have 9. Even though one of them is not eligible on DraftKings or FanDuel. So I am mostly, maybe throw in some Ricky Council if you wanted to, but I just don't think you have to mess with this one You could, but it's not. I don't find it desirable personally.
New Orleans and Detroit. I didn't even realize we have a Zion questionable for personal reasons.
And I think that's a legit questionable. I would treat that almost borderline being out. And if he's out, back to Missy. Sorry, well, I guess not back to Missy because Missy was out. But one of Missy or Olynyk, Trey Murphy, CJ McCollum are all going to look better, as well as potentially Matkovic if he starts.
Detroit looks like the healthiest team on the board here.
Yep.
And I think Cunningham is a good play. That would be the extent of my comments on that.
I agree. The only other one I would throw out there is I think Jalen Duren is a good play, but I don't think it's like a must play or anything like that. Just a guy who I would probably get some exposure to tonight.
Indiana, we have both Tyrese Halliburton and Miles Turner as questionable.
And Neesmith.
And Neesmith questionable as well. And no news on any of them. We know that Siakam is out.
Yep.
There's literally nothing to speculate on. You know what I mean? Like we'll know or we won't before the 8 o'clock games. And this is really where the slate starts, honestly.
It's like what you're doing is a logical way of going through the slate. Yes.
Yeah. So that's that. On the Minnesota side,
Halliburton just got announced out.
Halliburton is out. So it's going to be probably TJ McCollum and all that other stuff.
It'll be McConnell, but they're again, they probably won't start him, which may get some people off of him, which they tend not to do. They haven't been starting him without Halliburton, but you gotta have interest in TJ McConnell here for sure.
Yes. Okay. So he's going to be out. Minnesota is actually the only team on the whole board with not a single questionable.
Yep.
So they're healthy. You made a good point about them doing so well with Randall, whatever. But with Halliburton out, this game's gonna be a shit show, probably.
It could be. Indiana's so deep that they can play a lot of bodies. I think you're going to end up playing McConnell and Mathurin. I think they're going to both look really good anyway. Those would be the ones I would be most desired, find the most desirable, as well as Toppin to some extent. My guess is they end up sitting Turner as well, which just opens up. Then you have Thomas Bryant potentially, but you never know with Indiana. They still want to win games. It matters to them to win games. So maybe they do just for that reason.
Okay. And that finishes off the 8 p.m. slate. Okay. Then you have an hour for this Chicago-Utah thing to kind of happen. So first of all, Chicago's no bargain either. We have, Giddey is doubtful. So I presume we've been projecting him as out.
Yeah.
Okay. Kobe White probable. All right. That's something. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And that's it for Chicago. Okay. So Chicago is done. You know what I mean? Like their projections are normal.
Yep.
Okay. Utah, on the other hand, are not. As you mentioned earlier, Collins out, Sexton out. You mentioned that Svi is out. So we're waiting on Markkanen, Keontae George, and Clarkson. I had him as doubtful, but now I guess he's questionable.
Yeah, they upgraded him to question. They'll probably play him because they didn't play Sexton, is my guess.
Okay.
I don't know.
So we're waiting on all of that. I mean, if Kessler's in and Markkanen's in and Keontae George is in or whatever, then maybe the game isn't a 20-point game. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. The Bulls aren't good enough to have ever be 20 automatically over anybody. So,
okay, so that's that game. Then we get to Denver, Golden State. These guys are all probable, I presume, right? Like Jokic, Curry. Oh, no, Murray is questionable. Okay.
Yeah.
So Murray is questionable. Braun is probable. And Aaron Gordon is questionable. So we're going to wait on that. And that's not till 10 at least. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Memphis, Sacramento. It's it is pretty clear. Like Morant's out. Whatever his name is. Scottie Pippen's. Is he playing? Yeah. Right.
I think they're going to try. I think he'll do everything he can to play, but
But it says questionable.
Yeah, the fact that he's still questionable would leave me with a little bit of concern that he's.
And Aldama doubtful. And
Miles Turner and Neesmith, by the way, both ruled out for Indiana,
okay.
So you're going to be getting a ton of value there.
Okay, we'll get back to that one.
Yep.
Washington, Portland. It looks like we are Well, we're not quite clean. So Kamara is questionable. Aside from that, oh wait, Grant is what? Doubtful. Okay, he's out. Marcus Smart is illness questionable. Okay, so waiting on a little of that. Toronto Phoenix. Oh, let me see the stuff. So Barnes is no longer questionable. That's good. That's something. He's playing, I guess.
Hang on one second.
Yeah, he's off my
Yeah.
injury report.
He's out.
Oh, well, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah.
It doesn't say anything on DraftKings. Okay.
DraftKings has been really struggling with the NBA stuff.
Oh, well, so much.
Oh wait, hold on. Now I've got him upgraded to probable. What's going on here? Okay. Well, that was really weird. I'm literally on SaberSim right now going through it, and it just went from out to probable. Okay, so we think Barnes is in. So you were right. DraftKings is right then.
I have Quickly is in. He came off the injury report at 3:30 this afternoon.
Yep.
So okay, so that's something. So we don't need to play probably Shaheed and that stuff.
Yep.
But you could play Quickly. You do that.
Yeah.
If you want. Okay. Phoenix. We're still good to go with Tyus Jones. Good play.
Yeah, I like Tyus Jones as well.
San Antonio Lakers. No surprises. I mean, Dorian Finney-Smith is probable. And that's pretty much it. And Victor Wembanyama remains out. Right? So in that game, I was getting a bunch of Luka earlier.
Yep, I think you're going to get to even more.
I think I'm going to get Luka as well. I wonder if I get to get Jokic.
I think Jokic is going to be the more natural. Well, I don't know, because you're going to have, like, Thomas Bryant is about to be the best projected play on the slate.
What team is he on?
Indiana with no Miles Turner.
Indiana with no. What about Toppin?
He would be another value piece but you can play him at forward.
So you think that the Bryant starts?
I'd be shocked if he doesn't.
At 3K.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a tough fade, huh?
Yeah.
So this isn't one of those teams where they got Gobert. Does Minnesota have Gobert or no?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're going to have to play a big guy.
Yeah, and they could. I mean, because there's no Siakam also, which we have basically never seen the situation from Indiana all year. It's been one of the guys, but not all three of them. So Toppin and Bryant should both theoretically start, but they may not.
We get any James Johnson run?
I don't think that. Maybe a little bit.
He got 4 minutes.
Sure. Yeah, but I don't think you want to play him. I mean, what's going to be interesting is what happens if people react to the starting lineup, because I'm going to bet they don't start McConnell. I'm going to bet they don't, and then he's still going to be really popular. Don't get me wrong. But I'm going to bet. I'm just thinking they may start Jarris Walker and not start Toppin and just keep McConnell and Toppin as their off the bench guys. Now that could mean that those guys get the minutes. McConnell for sure. Toppin not so for sure.
I think Toppin's probably going to get minutes.
He basically never goes above a certain realm unless a very strange situation. But it is an unusual night. I mean, they've got plenty of bodies. That's the thing about them,
right?
And even we had Toppin with he had this one crazy game earlier this year where he played 30. But there were games with no what's his name, the center, and there were games with no Siakam. But I haven't seen it without both of them. And Jarris Walker is a guy. Like he's a part of that. He's one of their young guys. I wouldn't be surprised if they started him and if they closed with him, depending on how the game was going. But you're gonna be Indy focused as of now, and maybe more of even a reason, maybe not to use my maybe too cute for whatever. Maybe you don't need to do that McBride thing. It just feels like guard's going to be really strong today. So you're going to see Indiana I think your natural build is going to get you a minimum of 2 from Indiana. McConnell and Mathurin, McConnell, Mathurin, and Bryant. If you're playing cash games, I think you start with those 3. I think Toppin is actually the 4th most interesting. And I think when Jarris Walker, if he starts, I say when, but I mean if, I think that you're going to have to have a conversation with yourself about which one do I want, Walker or Toppin, which I think is a real conversation. And I don't know where I land on that one, to be honest with you. But again, if Jarris Walker doesn't start and Toppin does start, naturally everyone will play Toppin. Maybe use Jarris Walker as a way to get off the chalk a little bit in the same game.
Yeah.
But all of these other, I just want to point out, so I'll just say some bad value in my opinion, and I don't care what they hit or not tonight, but this is now bad value to me. Kevin Herter, I wouldn't say bad, but I would not play him. I wouldn't be super excited about Trey Jones outside of maybe a game stack. They're both fine, but there's going to be so much better value. There's going to be guys projected like at their number who are 2,000 cheaper than they are. Justin Champagnie, same thing. Orlando Robinson, to some extent, the same thing because we now are going to have the Thomas Bryant thing. Ryan Dunn, same thing. Those are the main pieces that I'm less interested in spending my value plays on. And I think Tyus Jones is also going to be less interesting, although I still like him fine. I just don't think I would rather play Scottie Pippen than him. And I'd rather play, I mean, you're going to lock up your guard spot because you're probably playing McConnell. And I mean, by the way, you're also, Nemhard's an incredible play. So like all of these guys are going to, be way behind the Indiana guys. And look, I complain and I say this and that, and why don't we have this from the NBA and all this? We can at least give the NBA credit, or Indiana credit. Hey, they got us their information early. Like this is early enough. We have plenty of time.
Yes, they did. That is correct.
Yeah. And I think this is totally like if we knew 90 minutes before, just like the NFL before your game starts, what's happening, we'd be thrilled. It'd make this really easy.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I'd like to know who's starting too.
Sure. That would be the ideal situation.
I guess I'm being too greedy asking for that.
The only team that you'll get that from is the Orlando Magic, my favorite.
You'll get it like 3 days ahead of time too.
They announced that Cole Anthony was starting sheets. They announced him out like 3 hours before or 2 hours before lock. And they immediately re-announced who their starting lineup was within like a second. I was like, this is what I want to see.
Yep.
Let's
see. Look at all of these guys out. Oh my goodness gracious.
Yeah, it's a while. How many indie guys max? I wouldn't put a max on them. What I would do is make sure you're late swapping. I mean, look, if no other value shows up because of the pricing, you're going like 4 or 5 from Indiana would be completely fine.
When I looked ahead to the slate on Friday with my Scottsdale slate.
Oh yeah.
And there's Utah on there.
Oh no! Wait, is it Friday or Saturday? They're doing the final on Friday.
Friday.
I've never heard of that. That's wild.
Friday. Yep.
Oh, it always used to be Saturday.
Friday and Utah's on the slate.
Yeah.
And it's like a later game in the slate.
Yeah. I don't. Yeah, and again, I just want to reiterate, I would not. And by the way, if Indiana can keep this game close, like. These are all good. The problem is they have other bodies, but like this, Indiana's not this isn't Toronto or Philadelphia. This is a team where wins actually matter. So if they're around there, they're going to play their best guys. Now their best guy might be Jarris Walker instead of Obi Toppin tonight because of the way how the game's going. But it's going to be hard to project that situation because it's not like a direct fill piece. And also I mean, I'm curious to see where the projections are when they update, but I'm guessing you're going to see 7X on probably 3 or 4 of them, and at least 6X on probably 3 or 4 more.
Which team on Indy?
Indy, yeah. So I would be on board now, probably with just Xing out the first game.
Yeah, I think that's probably wise.
Yeah, I don't.
Listen, there's no reason that you can't play Cat. I mean,
oh no, absolutely. But I would. So it's funny because of that, I would actually feel more comfortable playing Cat than I would. McBride because we just named all the guard value and we have the one centerpiece of value that's glaring. Other than that,
it's not going to affect really like whether you can play Cat. You know what I mean? Like it's actually it is like if you have to play Thomas Bryant
because you're locking up one spot with Bryant and you're probably it would make sense if he's available to use the other spot for Jokic,
right?
But you don't have to use 2 centers. I think this is more of as many point guards as you can fit kind of a slate as of right now.
I have a couple more questions for you. So how have you which live finals have you been to? Baseball, basketball?
All of them.
You've been all?
Is there
like during the actual like sweat of the thing, like how does that even work? What do people do? Like they watch the games on TV or?
Yeah, they put a bunch of big screens up and everybody's mingling and they put out a nice spread and all that stuff.
But how do they deal with the fact that like the DraftKings thing updates before like the game happens? I mean, like
they still don't show, at least all the ones I've been to, they didn't show the ownership until that individual game started.
But this is all late swap now. No late swap.
No late swap, right? That's what I'm saying. And it was the ones I've been to have been no late swap as well.
No, but I don't mean the ownership, but like sweat, like the actual like DraftKings score. I heard they had that up on like a big screen, sort of.
Oh yeah, they'll put it up on a giant screen, sort of like in Vegas with the sports.
But it's weird because you'll see like somebody register points before you see it on the actual TV.
Well, that's how it is for us on our TVs. I think that I don't know.
You think they sync them somehow?
It was pretty up to the second. Okay. When the ones I've been to anyway. But so I'm wondering one other thing about your site. Though. Are you sure? Can you like see? Can you like start building your lineup if you wanted to?
No.
Okay, so because what I'm guessing, maybe all the games start the same. Maybe there's a bunch of games start at the same time.
Yeah, it's close. Yeah, they what they did was they said they're starting it at like they may have screwed up the time frame, but the slate technically starts at 7, but they said ours is going to start at like 8 Eastern. Okay. Eastern. It's going to be like 8 Eastern to like 10 Eastern or something like that. So it would be like something like that. Like, but it's not all the same. I don't think they're all the same. But maybe that would be smart, right?
So that's the ones I've been to mostly have kept them within like a reasonable range.
It is within a reasonable time frame.
Yeah, like an hour. But in the NBA this time of year, there's nothing reasonable.
Right.
I had it happen with I ended up finishing in 4th place with a 0 from Nerlens Noel because they announced him out with an eye infection 3 minutes before the game locked. But it was a game that started 30 minutes after lock, and they had already announced him in the starting lineup by the time we even made our picks. And that was some years back, but it was kind of tilting.
Oh, so Friday, there are 4 8 p.m. games, then an 8:30, a 9:30, and a 10. And there's 2 10s.
Hopefully, it's just the 5 gamer.
And then there's a 10:30, which I doubt they extend that much.
That would be crazy.
I mean, they can't just do the 8. I mean, I guess they could 1, 2, 3, 4 games plus the 8:30 maybe. Yeah, but they said something that they were going to use I think they said the 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. Eastern time games or something.
Okay, fair enough. I just think it's such a terrible idea. Like, just let people late swap and whatever. Who cares about the collusion? Like, just figure it out. Like, I don't know.
So the people, I only ask because like how like brutal is it going to be for Stacey like during the actual live final?
Oh, like you mean which part? It'll just be people socializing and watching games and stuff.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, it's not going to be like people are not like screaming and throwing stuff. Maybe like I don't know. I've seen that happen more in baseball.
Well, screaming and throwing stuff is fine. You know what I mean? But if it was like that, if people were just like sitting there kind of watching games, you know what I mean? Like
that's sort of what it is. That's sort of what it's going to be, I think.
Yeah. Okay. We'll see. Maybe we'll take a walk and come back after we win or something.
There might be some people who, I mean, that's other things. A lot of people do that kind of stuff. But you'll probably recognize some people and know some people, and they'll probably
that's the thing. Like all the guys that are playing are like the best players in the world that I've never met before.
Yeah. I had some great times with some of those guys before, but I haven't. Like I said, I don't try the live final. I did when I found out you were going. I'll be completely honest. I probably lost about $5,000 trying to play qualifiers.
Oh, jeez.
I was like, that would be a great excuse. Also, my kids out there, and like I've got friends out there. I've got some family. It's like it would have been a fun excuse. But
we'll try to win the baseball one.
Yeah, how about that? That sounds good to me.
So I'm listen. The stuff around it's cool. I mean, we're going to like a craft fair. I think Saturday we have like massages Saturday, like afterwards.
Yeah.
And Friday it's gonna be real. It's supposed to be really warm during the day, so we'll pool whatever. But I tell you something, Bobby, as I was talking about. I mean, like I just need to go anywhere right now. So
yeah, absolutely, man. I get it, and I think it's good for that too. Yeah, and it's a nice place. If you guys you said the other time you're going to Tucson, the Canyon Ranch.
Yeah,
that's cool.
Yeah.
That's cool. I always say that if you haven't been to at some point and it's cool to go to Sedona. I think you've been there though.
We went to Sedona. Yeah, we stayed at the Hermitage. It was really nice, actually.
Yeah, it's a cool place. It's just a very unusual, different kind of place. But yeah, I mean, I'm stoked for you to get going, and we'll be sweating you.
Yeah, absolutely. When I get there, when I get the link, I'll post it in the Discord.
Oh yeah, awesome. That would be great.
Yeah.
But just FYI, we did get some updated projections from Indiana, and Thomas Bryant is projected almost 10x.
Oh yeah.
Oh, so the top top 5 players are all from Indiana right now.
Right now, okay.
And there's a great play that's not even one of them, and that would be Nemhard. So you've got Bryant topping they've got it at 8x, 7.8. They've got McConnell at 7.3, Matherin at 7.3, Walker at 7.2. And those are the main ones, unless you wanted to get creative. And to me, the creative one that I think makes a lot of sense is, what about Andrew Nemhard? That's the one
it's the MBAs.
Yeah, exactly. And by the way, he should be projected. I think he should be projected in the 30 range anyway. And he's got him at about a 30 now. But I think there's a chance like he could. I mean, remember we've seen him put up big games here before. So I would not put a limit to my number of Indiana players. What I would do is just make sure I'm late swapping. I would have no problem playing all of them. Especially because they're a team that wants to win. I don't like doing it when they're a team that doesn't care about winning and have enough players.
I mean, the only thing that you run, the only team that's really going to beat you is if you use too many of them and like the Utah guys get you somehow, I guess.
Yeah.
I'm not worried too much. They're terrible. I don't know.
And even if it doesn't mean you can't, play some of them too, but like you can't.
Yeah, but meanwhile, this Minnesota game could blow out pretty hard too. I mean, like.
It could, but even in the blowout, Jarris Walker is going to get his run then.
Yeah.
McConnell will probably have already gotten there by then. And getting there might only mean 30, what is he going to get really? And I would expect they bring McConnell off the bench still, as they normally do. The guys who I wouldn't be as high on are Ben Shepherd, Quentin Jackson, Tony Bradley, Enrique Freeman. Those are the 4 that I would not be wanting to play unless you wanted to just take it's going to blow out. I'll take some shots at Enrique Freeman or Tony Bradley. Tony Bradley, because he's backing up Thomas Bryant. Maybe Thomas Bryant fouls out in 18 minutes. That's like the only way he doesn't get there.
Yeah.
I think. I mean, now they've upped his projection to 10 over 10x. He's going to be 90% owned, maybe higher.
Which guy?
Thomas Bryant.
Yeah.
I just don't see how this is as big a projection as you'll ever see. It's like the other night with the Toronto and the Philly guys. It was hilarious watching that thing. Wow. And if Indy keeps it close, you're going to be happy that you have 5 of these guys because they kind of have to smash. Like, it's just hard to be on the court and not, for that many minutes with so few, whatever. If you're playing 30 minutes, you're going to put up 20 fantasy points, even if you're a terrible point per minute player most of the time.
Yeah.
In these cases, like, you're probably looking at a lot higher, and everybody's so cheap except for the Nemhard. I think the Nemhard, and he's got shooting guard eligibility. So that would be my argument for, hey, maybe play in case it gets close, a little bit of the Nemhard. That would be one different thing I would do on this slate. But yeah, it feels very Indy heavy. Although I have to say, if we do get all those guys out for Utah and you find out in time, I still think the Indy stuff is better mostly, but somebody's got to play.
Right.
Maybe, but even these guys, like, even if Sensabaugh projects the same, he's just, I don't even know what the answer is, to be honest with you. I can't see it.
We like the Bulls guys still? Yeah, we think so, right? I'm
not interested as much. I mean, look, if it fits in because positions and stuff, but I'm not playing Trey Jones with I've already got. To me, I've got McConnell. I probably would want Luka, and I want Matherin. I probably am off the Trey Jones, even though it's totally fine. Go ahead. I just am not as interested in he and Herter as I was before. But could they have a game here? Absolutely, they could have a game here, and they're trying to win as well. But they have like a ton of healthy bodies.
Right.
I don't know. It's hard for me to see that one. All right.
Well, I guess I should just go eat dinner. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
I'll go play at 7:30s. I'll wait till whatever. At 7:45, I'll come back and check out what's going on at the 8 o'clocks and just kind of fire it. You know what I mean? Like.
Yeah, and I think because there's late news, my take would be to ignore the first game, even though you're right. There's nothing wrong with playing Cat with no Brunson for sure. Nothing wrong with Miles Bridges or Miles McBride or Mikal Bridges for that matter. But I just think there are other spend ups. I mean, you can play Luka, Jokic, some of the indie guys and still have room to spend up somewhere else.
This is actually pretty interesting. You know, like I ran projections with just the Saberson projections just for a second and ran some builds. This is going to sound, weird to say, but like I'm only getting 73% Brian.
That is kind of surprising.
Right? I mean, I thought I would get more.
Yeah.
Now, with that said, I'm also getting 70% Matherin.
Yeah.
64% Toppin. It's like, so.
Yeah.
But it's not like 100.
Yeah, and I actually don't mind that. I mean, but they're also, yeah. I mean, it's definitely possible. Look, foul trouble happens. We've seen it happen. We've seen guys foul out in 12 minutes before. That's like the one out I can see of him not getting there because he's 3K. And like, if he has a terrible game, he puts up 20. That's still 7X. Like, you're still fine. MD's asking how many minutes should McConnell get tonight. So McConnell, I wouldn't focus on the minutes as much as the usage. I think he'll play somewhere between. I mean, it depends on the score of the game. There's a blowout. There's some serious blowout risk now. But if the game is reasonably close, I would expect him to be in the 26 to 30 range. If the game is a blowout, I still think he plays probably 24 minutes. Maybe there's a weird blowout where they're down by 30 in the second quarter and he only plays 20. But I think I would probably expect him to be somewhere in the 25 to 32 range and with upside on that and very little downside unless the game gets way out of hand. Is Brissett? Oh, so Yabusele is out now. No, I'm not touching.
Wiggins is out, by the way.
Wiggins is out. I'm not touching anything from Philly. They have 9 available bodies as long as Okiki's there. If they had one less, I would get interested a little bit. And they'll project okay, but you could play Brissett if you want to. I don't.
Yabusele is out.
Yeah.
Okay.
So really, that does mean like you can play O'Shea Brissett. It's fine. I wouldn't play him. If I ended up with a lineup or two with him, sure, but I would have less than 5% ownership if I maxed out. And you can play. You can take a shot. I don't even know. I mean, I guess I could argue for all these Heat guys, but I just feel like it's wasted breath because I think that other stuff is better, and I think there's going to be more news later. So I would just start. I would start at the 8 p.m. Eastern, and I would probably skip Philly. Let me just make sure because they've got 4, 8, and I know it shows only 8 on SaberSim, but if we can get word whether Okiki is available.
Yeah, but we're going to have all the Philly stuff by 8 o'clock anyway. All these games are at 8.
But you won't see anything with Okiki because he's not projected on either site. If he's not actually available to play, because then they only have 8 players, not 9. He's their 9th guy. If they only have 8, then I think you could make a case.
And you have to play. Don't you have to play? I mean,
usually
you even have to play Grimes like 9K or whatever he is. I mean,
yeah, well, you'd have to consider it, but remember, they're trying to lose desperately. Right. They're one game separate. They're one game ahead, but technically behind Toronto in the loss, so they need to lose. So I would say Brissett is not a good play, but it certainly could get there. But I would be trying to avoid the Philly thing as long as we can hear. Let me just double check. I'll do a quick search. You guys can do a quick search just on Twitter about Chuma Okiki of Philly availability because we'll probably get a post saying exactly how many players are available for Philly pretty soon. But I'm going to guess they have 9.
It's going to be Hood Schifino season.
It might be. The one I'd be most interested in is probably Ricky Council.
Alex Reese.
I just don't think you need to do the value thing at center with
right.
The other stuff. And by the way, the pivot. I mean, so like if you're not playing, you should have Thomas Bryant or Obi Toppin in every one of your lineups. If you're not playing, I mean, you probably should have Thomas Bryant in every one of your lineups. But if you don't just go that far, you definitely should have Obi Toppin in that lineup. I just don't see how neither of those guys. I don't even know what that path is like unless they both break ankles in the first quarter or something. That's pretty much it. So a pretty ugly slate, and it's funny. We're gonna have a small slate tomorrow, which I'm excited about. But I'm telling you what, this would be one that it's gonna be hard. It's gonna be weird to see a lot of lineups that are almost exactly the same at the top, or maybe not at the top. Who knows? Maybe you do something different. But and look, the Philly thing is gonna look okay. It's just not gonna look okay as it relates to Indianapolis, because this team is. I mean, you've got 5 guys 7X or better. And the usage has to go through these guys unless the game is completely a blowout.
By the way, not to overstate this, but listen, if we're considering, Xing out Miami, New York, then a lot of people are also, and put that on top of your take about Miles McBride being underprojected. He could be like super sneaky tonight.
He's also got shooting guard eligibility, so you don't have to worry about locking up the point guard spot because you're going to be playing like a good amount of McConnell and all that.
Right.
The only thing is, it's hard for me to justify him as much over Nembhard, who's kind of like their number one option now for Indiana, whereas McBride is the number 5 option for the Knicks.
That's true.
That's the only issue. But I think look, earlier today, even if one of these guys was playing for Indiana, I would still be doing it. But if you start your lineups with 4, if you're playing cash, play as many Indiana guys as you can, then play Scottie Pippen Jr., then play. If you can do all this, so then play Luka and Jokic, and then see how much money you have left, and maybe upgrade some other position if you need to.
All right, you know what? I'm gonna go because I want to eat something, and I got to come back at 7:45 and do the.
All right, good luck tonight, man.
All right, later.
And I'll stick around for a minute, guys. MJ asking, is there a way to upload pay dirt projections into SaberSim? Yeah, so I think that there is. I don't know. I haven't done it myself yet, but there should be a way to do it. MJ, if you don't mind tagging Multichem in the Discord chat. James has been really responsive, and he always answers that kind of stuff. But the answer is, if there isn't today, there will be very shortly. We'll figure it out. But yes, I think there probably is a way. But you can ask Multichem in the Discord chat if you don't mind, just while I go through the rest of this stuff. I didn't see that question before. And I'm just going to see if they're updating McConnell's minutes, because it is interesting to have him at only 24.8. And he still looks like an incredible play. Yeah, I think that's sort of my look on this slate is I don't care which site you're playing on. You really do need to you can't. I don't think you should play less than 3 from Indianapolis. Now, you could argue a little bit differently on FanDuel because the pricing is higher. But I still think you're probably looking at a minimum of 3 if it was me. But not as much. Like, I would be more interested in Herter over on FanDuel. I would be more interested in Trey Jones over on FanDuel. It's just a little different with the builds where I think you could get to some of that, but I still think you're looking at a minimum 3 for Indiana for me, is the way I would treat tonight. And can you win with 2? Sure. It's a huge slate. There's a lot of other options. I don't like any of these other ones. And the Philly stuff was probably I don't want to say the next most interesting, but like I'd be looking at value pieces from Philly. I don't know that I guess they're going to lose anyway. Quentin Grimes, maybe they let him go nuts again. Maybe we do consider that another thing. But I just think this build feels very basic. It's going to be a lot of similar to cash builds. So trying to find a little way to get different. I mentioned the Nembhard idea. I'm just trying to think of some other differentiators tonight. You could not use Scottie Pippen Jr., which I don't think is going to be that different by the end of it. I don't think you need to play Scottie Pippen Jr. anymore. I still like him, don't get me wrong, but I don't think you need to do it. I think some of the Sacramento guys as spend-ups are kind of interesting at low ownership. And I'm just going to double-check this updated projection and see if maybe I'm not missing something. It doesn't look like they're doing much with the Philly stuff. They just raised the prices on Philly. So, like, Philly is basically like Indiana in a little bit of a way, but the players are a lot worse and they're also a lot more expensive. And they're both facing good defensive teams, so that's not really it. Max 300 left on the table. Oh, no. On this slate, I don't care. Like, in basketball, in general, that's a good rule of thumb. But no rules are always going to be the case, okay? So you're going to the answer for me is McConnell, Rick, but both are good options. I think I'd probably end up with a good amount of both of them about Pippen versus McConnell. It's McConnell for me. Totally happy if anybody wants to play Pippen instead. 300 left on the table. I actually think that you can, if I got to builds and I was editing and changing some projections and whatnot, I think I would be willing to leave some more than that on the table tonight. I would have no problem if I ended up with some lineups with 1,000 left on the table. Just wouldn't bother me in the slightest bit. Not at all. I'm just looking to see at the updated projections if there's anything I find that interesting. Again, I would get guys like Ryan Dunn. I don't care if he gets get him out of there. Tyus Jones, not as interesting as he was before. Maybe an interesting pivot off of Trey Jones, but obviously we have other value. Maybe an interesting pivot off of McConnell. Okay, I can buy that. guys like you could play Duop Reith at 3,300 and you could play 3K Thomas Bryant if you wanted to. But I think I would be looking at some sort of a Luka Jokic, Indiana as my core thing. I mentioned that Nembhard is a way to get different within Indiana. I like both in terms of spending up other positions. Devin Booker and Kevin Durant, I think, are in really good spots. I would prefer Booker slightly, but it'd be close between those two for me. Other guys I would consider spending. I mentioned the Sacramento guys, super contrarian, maybe too contrarian. The Sacramento guys, the San Antonio guys, they're not really trying to win either, so maybe a little bit less interested in them. Avdia, I think, is a good play. Not really getting different, but I do like Avdia. I like Henderson and Shooter Sharp. I just can't get to them as much with the low overloaded guard. And Cade, if you're not using, you could use Cade and Luka. That would be a contrarian-ish build because I do think everyone's going to play some form of McConnell, Pippen. I think you're going to see some of the Mathurin, but he'll play. He has actually he's only forward eligible now. Yeah, let me just look at my guard value here. I mean, Trey Jones and Herter are fine. I just personally am not that excited by it. I would rather go different directions. But you can always wait and adjust and see where the projections and everything takes you after we hear about the 8 o'clock stuff. But I do think I personally would be off this first game, maybe because of the contrarian sake. I would want some exposure to Cat or just the studs, for the Knicks. That's fine. But I personally, I would not be using any sort of value from the early game. I don't care if they hit. Like Hawkes looks like a good play, point per dollar. He is starting tonight for what it's worth. He didn't start the other night. Interesting. Hawkes, but it's probably a little too thin. I don't think he's a better play than these other guys. He can get there, though. Hawkes would be the one I would consider the most from the value standpoint from the early games. Jazz News is coming in. Keontae George available. Jordan Clarkson available. Laurie. So we're not that interested in the Jazz. Good to know. And thanks, MJ. So that makes the Jazz a little bit less interesting as a potential target spot. But we still don't have actual news on the Denver guys. Jokic, Murray, Gordon, I think they all play, but I'm not 100% sure. And obviously, those guys being out, any of them, probably is Russell Westbrook time in a big way. Yeah, so that's sort of the look. Sorry, guys, it's a little bit of a trick. Look, it's going to be this way for about 2 more weeks. Yeah, a little longer, actually. Almost another month for NBA. It's going to be a little wild, but we've got MLB coming back. My Dodgers kick off. They don't kick off. The first pitch, 3 a.m. my time, 6 a.m. Eastern time. But really, we'll get the season going pretty soon, and we're really excited to have some of the new tools we've got for that stuff. So thanks to everybody's time. I'm going to get out of here. I wish I was playing tonight. Or no, I'm actually happy I'm not playing. If I was playing, I would jump in and talk to you guys through the premium members. But as of right now, I'm kind of content just to go have dinner with my son and then take a very long drive back to Los Angeles and be ready for tomorrow's smaller slate and the rest of this week. Let's make some money. I had a really good Friday and Saturday. I wasn't planning on playing Saturday. I threw one lineup in last minute, had a chance to win, just didn't end the games quite the way that I wanted to. I think Giannis had 0 fantasy points in like the last 8 minutes he played. I don't know if I've ever seen that from Giannis, especially against Indiana where he had 63.5 already. So him not being able to outscore Shea, who had 70, which it looked like a freaking lock. I think Giannis was projected around 81 at that point. Did not get there. So that was a little tilting, but everything else was beautiful. The 3% owned Halliburton is what did it for me on Saturday. And the 2% owned John Morant is what did it for me on Friday. And I did talk through those plays. So today my contrarian guy is, well, on the lower end, Nembhard. On the higher end, I'm going to say Booker, but I would include Booker and Durant as 2 guys who are one of them is going to have a big game tonight.